right, well, hello and welcome to the Rise of ServiceOps, Convergence of IT Service and Operations Intensifies. Today's exciting webinar is sponsored by ServiceNow with a special guest speaker from Enterprise Management Associates, or EMA, and of course produced by Actual Tech Media. Now, my name is Jess Steinbuck. If I haven't met you already, I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this webinar because not only do we have this very interesting topic to explore together, we also have two expert presenters here with us today who are going to walk us through an informative conversation, kind of discussion about technology service operations, or service ops. And this is such a cool topic. I really like this because it covers all the best things that are on our minds these days. We're talking about AI and ML and analytics, workflow optimization, and very best of all, we will get some expert guidance today on how IT services and operations teams can collaborate. This is lowering costs, it's increasing efficiency, and generally just making everything smoother and a bit more fun, right? So like I said, this is going to be a great day, and I don't want to take any time away from our experts, so I am going to zip through just a few of the important housekeeping points, and we'll get us on our way here. All right, so first up, I'll bring us over to our agenda list here. Now, I'm going to draw your attention over to the questions section of your webinar console. This is the best place to get involved, get interactive, and post all of your insightful questions, those comments, your feedback, your ideas. We want to hear from you. And all of that is happening right there in that questions window. That is also a great place to start out the day by saying hi, hello, give a wave to the community out there that's with us here today, joining in this conversation. Now, a quick side note, that window is also the best place to reach out and let us know if you do have any technical issues during our session, knock on wood, of course. Don't forget that a browser refresh is going to get rid of any of the usual tech gremlins that are there with us today. But if not, just shoot a message in that questions window and the Actual Tech Media team will be there to help you out. Okay, the next thing I want to point out on this guided tour of your audience console is the handout section. It is right next to that questions window that we were just looking at. You're going to see some really exciting content to go along with our webinar today. These handouts are amazing, but to quote our friends from Reading Rainbow, you don't have to take my word for it. Go check them out. You can find the EMA March 2023 report, Automation, AI, and the Rise of ServiceOps. So this is a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, but obviously there's way more information that we're going to have time to get into. So be sure that you've downloaded that and save it to read a little bit further after we wrap. I also want to make sure that you get the ServiceNow ebook, Reimagining IT Service Delivery and Operations, no matter what comes your way. This is so important. It's an unpredictable world we live in. So this is a great read. You're going to get to explore some of the powerful ways that a combined management approach can drive greater resilience and proactivity. Love that in your organization. Very cool read. So be sure to download and save that for your light evening reading session that I know you've all got planned later today. All right. Well, it's not just awesome content that we're giving away. We also have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing, which we will do at the end of our webinar. So stay tuned for that. Now, of course, you must be in live attendance during the webinar to qualify to win that prize, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're saying to yourself, Jess, that sounds great, but what are those prize terms and conditions? Fair question. Head on over to the handouts tab, scroll in, and you will find the full thing linked for you there. All right, now not only does asking a question today help bring up the energy and the vibe and the excitement of the entire webinar here with us, it is also a great chance to win a prize. Now today, we are offering a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked. We're going to review all the questions asked after we wrap. So even if your question does not get asked in our live Q&A at the end of our webinar here today, there is still a chance to win. So keep those questions coming. All right, well, folks, that is it for the housekeeping. I said I would keep it short and sweet, and I hope that I have. And I think it's time that we kick things off. We're going to get our expert speakers out here with us in just a moment. I am so excited to introduce you all to Bruce Randall, Head of Service Operations Product Marketing at ServiceNow, and our special guest featured speaker here, Valerie O'Connell, Research Director at EMA. Bruce and Valerie, let's get you on out here with us. All right, we need Valerie here too. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Bruce. I think you are going to kick us off on this interesting and collaborative conversation. So take it away, Bruce.
Thanks, Jess. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. I'm going to stay to the end, and I still can't get the gift card. So I hope that you do, and I hope it's valuable to you. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce to you our, my friend, my speaker, co-speaker today, I should say, Valerie O'Connell from EMA. She did this research around service operations, I believe, last year, right, Val, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time. And it was so good. It was so helpful to understand what was happening out there in the market that we redid it again. And it's even better this year. And, working with Valerie, it's always, it's excellent to be able to understand how you phrase the questions to get the best answers and really to help drive activities that happen out there in the market. So I'm really excited that you're with us today, Valerie. And I will just real quickly before we get to you, I need to cover off on the things the lawyers want me to cover off on, which would be the safe harbor notice. Please don't make buying decisions based on any forward-looking statements that we do come out with today. And I think that's it. Otherwise, I'll be speaking towards the end. But Valerie, you're gonna feature you here for the next little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, thanks, Bruce. I thought you were going to say how much fun I am to work with too. So I'll just say
that's true too. I'm sorry if I didn't.
But our energy level together doesn't equal Jess. So we're going to have to perk up a little to get that energy going. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be going through the research that I've done, and I'll cover that in a minute. But so ServiceOps, let's just start there. What is it? It can be a whole lot of things, but for a working definition, ServiceOps is a technology-enabled approach to unifying IT service and IT operations management for excellence in delivery of digital business services. Now, people go like, oh no, another buzzword. No, it's not. It's not a marketing concept. It's not a product. It's not a technology. What it is what it is. IT service-forward, results-driven approach that's people-centric, technology-enabled, and management-supported. You'll see during the course of our time together that it's common sense and practical, which is one of the reasons why I really like this. I've been an analyst forever, and this is one topic that really excites me because it is so practical, and it's not so futuristic that you need to put on, forward-looking glasses. It's now. It's the best of both worlds. Grassroots and C-level loves it. And it's very successful at improving IT service and cutting costs. And that's part of the reason why it's rapidly growing in adoption. Bruce mentioned that I did this research last year. And a word about the research. Even though ServiceNow is a sponsor, this is what we call multi-sponsor research, which means that it's independent of vendors, and the sponsors sponsor it in the same way that TV shows are sponsored. It's vendor independent. Now, in the case of ServiceOps, there's a great map between ServiceOps and ServiceNow. Even the names are kind of catchy together. But anyway, last year, which was the first time I did this research, I kind of backed into the topic of ServiceOps. I knew that this kind of thing was going on by talking with clients, IT practitioners, but I wasn't certain about the name or even really the coalescence of the concept. So backing into it last year, I called it AI Service Automation, ITSM, and IT Ops Convergence. But after doing the research with 400 plus IT leaders from North America, EMEA, and APAC, with organizations that are between 1,000 employees and 20,000 plus, with a fairly good distribution across there and cross industries, this is what I concluded last year. ServiceOps will soon become the prevailing IT operational model. It is the logical product of business sense and technology combined, because AI ops, automation, and AI and ML enable, and they can also shape a converged model of IT service delivery and support. So, emboldened by last year's research, this year, I just dove right into it. Took ServiceOps head on, automation, AI, and the rise of ServiceOps. It is rising. And this year's conclusion is that ServiceOps, by any name, A technology-enabled approach to frictionless collaboration between IT service and operations is at work across industries and organizations of all sizes globally. It is relatively early, but gaining momentum as 78% of the respondents identify this collaboration as either an active effort or a formal initiative. So, why does ServiceOps matter? It's happening now, as I said. 78% of our respondents are either formally or informally active in what we would call ServiceOps. If you look on the right here, we asked, and this is the kind of slide that usually people put at the end of their presentation, but we have so much good stuff, we can bring good stuff forward. What impact has ServiceOps had on your organization? And we only asked this question, obviously, of respondents who said they have these initiatives going. And it is almost universally positive or very positive. You see that 29% say it's positive. Cross-functional collaboration has improved. And if it did nothing more than that, it's well worth it. But it does do more than that. 51% say it was very positive. It has streamlined cross-functional processes and workflows. But what's really telling is that 16% of the respondents who had perfectly good positive choices to make said it was transformative. It has redefined service excellence and business alignment. And for anybody who's wondering and says, well, there aren't any negative answers there, that's because nobody selected them. We gave them the option, but they didn't take them. So let's take a quick look at some of the IT context and background before we dive into ServiceOps in particular. Most of you out there are probably pretty curious about what other organizations are doing regarding budget. We asked how their budgets were coming into 2023. 92% had either a no cut or an increase in budget. And we can say, though, that dollars today don't go quite as far as they did maybe a couple of years ago. But people came into 2023 with very healthy IT budgets. Over on the right, then, we asked, how has global uncertainty about economics and geopolitical disruption impacted your organization's buying behavior or plans? And you see on the bottom, only 17% said that they've experienced budget and headcount cuts. And this research was done in February of this year, so roughly a month ago. And 23% said they've had no impact yet. What's more typical is in the middle there, roughly 60% have some change or impact on their buying behavior. So buying decisions get made at a higher level. Some people, and my clients are included, are speeding up spending because they're anticipating cuts that haven't come yet. And discretionary spending and hiring may be frozen. Part of the backdrop of ServiceOps, and one of the reasons why it's so well adopted, is because it's operating on technology that's already being put in place. And I say that AI and automation are foundational to both IT and to ServiceOps. On the left, we asked, which technologies will your organization most increase in use and investment in the next year or so? Number one is AI and automation for predictive and proactive operations, followed by AI and automation for self-service and unattended actions, and automated cross-functional workflows. I want to take just a moment and talk about predictive and proactive operations. I've been doing this kind of research for years, and predictive and proactive has always been on the list, but it's never been at the top until this year. It's always been before aspirational, something we're going to do in the future, but it's now. And part of the reason is that automation and AI together are such a powerful combination, and experience breeds desire for more. So AI for automation and predictive and proactive, you'll see that multiple times today. On the right, how do IT operations and service collaborate using AI, ML, and automation? There's a long list. I'm not going to go through all of it, but some of the top ones are IT asset and cost management, IT governance and risk, ITSM tickets generate alerts in IT ops tools, and collaboration and security. cross-functional workflows. I mean, the list is long. And the reason when you see these differences in percentages, it's because people could choose more than one or many more than one. Sometimes I limit them to two. It's just an adventure along the way. So looking at AI ops and automation at work, a practical example is AI ops. We ask, how is AI ops most useful in your organization? And there you go again. Predictive and proactive actions tops the list, followed by collection and rationalization of data, incident response, decreased mean time to repair. Now the question on the right, why is it on the AI ops screen? It wasn't originally an AI ops question, but you'll see why it turned into one. You'll see it's no surprise when you say which statement best describes IT outages to your organization. 67% or somewhere around there, I've forgotten the exact math, say it's no surprise that it's not only increasing, 19% say increases in outages are guaranteed. But where it gets interesting and where it gets AI-opish, I just made that word up, is 18% say it has been decreasing because of proactive AI ops systems we've put in place. That's pretty amazing. And 15% say outages are increasing, but we think we can lower it with AI ops and automation. AI ops makes a difference, and it also has a very, very strong presence in service ops organizations. This was true last year. It's even more true this year. Service ops runs on platforms. And for the purposes of this survey, we define a platform as a group of technologies, usually software, frequently vendor supplied, that together form a base on which other applications, processes, and technologies can act or interact. And the reason I do these definitions is so that everybody will have some idea of what they mean when they answer the questions. So what statement best describes your enterprise's approach to IT service management and IT ops? And 42% say platform capabilities for cross-domain workflows and end-to-end visibility and automation are unifying the functions specifically for service ops. And 28% or 29, my vision doesn't go quite that far with these late slides. IT service and IT ops are separate, but share information and processes through the service desk and their ITSM platforms. So in terms of the platform capabilities specifically being used for cross-domain workflows and service ops in particular, that's up substantially from last year. Last year it was 25%. Now, we ask all kinds of questions. The success rate is very high. I think it's like 85% or whatever. But then I ask, enough of that. In terms specifically of cost, what value has your platform investment returned? And for most people, it either pays for itself or is actually profitable. 12% say it's break even, it paid for itself and then some. And that would be good enough. But 59%, almost 60% say good value. It has more than paid for itself, probably returning in excess of 20% over cost. And 25% actually cite high value, which we defined as the savings and benefits are at least double the cost. An interesting little note, those service ops organizations, 35% of them say that they're getting that high value range from platforms. All right, so now the reason you're all here, let's look at some of the service ops specific questions. Before we dove into service ops, I just asked cold, what does the term service ops mean to you? 60% say an approach that combines IT service and operations. And to my way of thinking, that's the correctest answer on this list. And you see there's some ambiguity there, including an honest 3% who go, means nothing to me, it's just new. But there's very high name recognition in service ops teams and 100% with CXOs. The name recognition is up substantially over last year. And I'll say this repeatedly, although the name doesn't matter, whatever you call it, the term service ops will become well recognized and accepted because it makes sense. You don't have to do any mental gymnastics and go, service ops, whatever could that mean? It means what it says. So then we went on and defined it and then said, if service ops unifies IT service and operations, which statement best describes the state of service ops in your organization? 43% say there's an active effort to improve the service and operations collaboration, And 35% actually say they have a ServiceOps team that includes both functions. That's up substantially from last year, and I think you'll see this increasing even more next year. When there is a formal ServiceOps team, it tends to be more mature and C-level supported than the active effort group, which tends to be grassroots. But I say here that both are more advanced in all kinds of things like digital transformation, automation, and use of predictive and proactive. And just as a little side note, the group that's completely separate and happy about that are much more likely to see IT as purely operational, not strategic. ServiceOps is a natural progression of workflow automation. We ask what statement best describes the reason for service and operations to increase collaboration in your organization. 36% say that senior management is driving collaboration for efficiency and cost cutting, and they won't be disappointed. But then you see 21% say it's a survival mechanism for service and ops to deal with the volume of work and the changes. And 43% say it's a collaboration is a natural result of workflow automation capabilities. And ServiceOps is relatively easy. We asked how long ServiceOps has been underway in your organization, either formally or informally. And you'll see that almost 60% it's younger than 2 years, with 11% less than 1 year. So it's a relatively new, whether you call it a discipline approach, initiative, effort, it's relatively young, and as with every IT initiative since the abacus, benefits realized increase with maturity. And ServiceOps maturity also correlates very well with IT service quality. 31% of those who've had ServiceOps in place for 2 years or more have reported an outstanding IT quality of service, whereas 21% in the 1 to 2 year group and 16% in the early group. So we talk about the unification of ServiceOps and service and operations. What's the ideal level? 42% say merged. System, shared reporting structure, systems, and business goals. And 34% say coordinated, simplified collaboration and workflows. CXOs tend to say that they see merged as ideal, and those who come from mature ServiceOps teams tend to choose coordinated. The point isn't that there is an ideal level, because the ideal level will differ from organization to organization, and you may well find that that ideal level shifts over time. So what are the results when service and operations are effectively unified? There are a whole bunch of positives that come out of this. You can look at these things at your leisure when you look at the report, but I want to zero in on the top two. Faster time to find and fix problems, higher productivity, and less wasted time. Those are the top two. Why am I zeroing in on them? Because those are the top IT improvements and goals for both IT ops and IT service. We asked, what are the top IT ops improvements goals in the next 6 to 18 months? Number 1, reduce major incidents and outages and reduce costs. Well, that maps pretty well to faster time to find and fix problems, which is the top result from ServiceOps. Asking the same question about IT service improvements. Number 1 is better processes for interaction with other teams, followed immediately by automation of those better interactions for cross-departmental workflows and cost cutting. So before I leave it completely, is the point made that the top benefits and outcomes of ServiceOps map directly to the top IT ops and IT service improvements. I think that is very telling, in case you couldn't tell by my returning to it. What are the top obstacles to ServiceOps? Well, it turns out those top obstacles are not primarily technical. That having been said, the top one is data access and accuracy. And that makes all the sense in the world. If you think of what ServiceOps is doing, which is to reduce duplication of effort, contradictory efforts, to eliminate gaps and overlaps. So That's all about communication and data. So it makes sense that they need to be operating off of the same data and that it be accurate. But then the others, lack of experience and skills, competing goals and priorities, straight up organizational, and resources, budget and headcount. So we look at what are the most important factors to unify service operations, and then what are the most important technologies to unify service and operations. And hopefully you'll see a flip-flop. For instance, the top factor stated was efficient processes and workflows. Well, then the top technology on the right-hand side is workflow automation. Going back to factors, so efficient processes and workflow, collaboration tools, organization and management support, shared objectives and metrics, end-to-end visibility, observability, and common data. Now we go over to the enabling technologies. We already mentioned workflow automation, a platform for enterprise-wide visibility and action. And by the way, 100% of those organizations that say they have a ServiceOps initiative, whether formal or informal, are using a platform for obvious reasons. Shared digital workspace, common data model to go with the common data, business context discovery and service mapping, and automation for autonomous action. And we don't talk about this much in this presentation, but self-service and autonomous action are a big part of ServiceOps because it frees up people to do things that machines, by having machines do what they can do. Common sense, not spending a whole lot of time on it. One of the reasons that ServiceOps is gaining so much popularity and adoption is because its benefits directly impacts IT's top challenges and priorities. We asked which areas or use cases benefit most from coordination of service and operations. Let's tick these off: cloud management, security, employee productivity, user experience, cross-functional workflows, incident management and response, GRC. I mean, what company doesn't have those as areas they want impacted? And ServiceOps hits them. Then we asking the question another way: which teams other than service and operations benefit from coordination of service and operations? And the list is long. We'll just hit some of the top ones: security, end user management, DevOps, GRC, product teams, and on down the list. Interestingly, security was also top of the list last year as well. Now, what function benefits most from ServiceOps? 62% of the respondents say they benefit equally. Now, at the beginning of the empaneling of this group, I made each person identify as more familiar or involved with IT service or more with IT ops. And that 62% that say they benefit equally was also almost perfectly split. One group said 61%, one was 63. I don't even remember which. They both benefit equally, but where it really gets interesting is you see that 17% that say IT service benefits more. Well, they were from IT service. Likewise, the 21% that think that IT operations benefits more, those were IT ops folks, which is really interesting because in a world where everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side, when it comes to service ops, people think the grass is greener on their side of the fence, which means that service ops makes sense and benefits the people who are doing it, which is one of the reasons why the adoption is so high. So, summing up my research here, and it's tough because I cut out a lot of things in the interest of time. It's like picking your favorite children, and this is one of my favorite topics. But the name doesn't matter. I've said it before, but service ops, the term is simple, it's to the point, it's easily understood, and so it is likely to be adopted. Service ops facilitates the interaction of IT service and operations. And I didn't mention this before, but it's worth mentioning that service ops isn't trying to make the two groups get together and sing Kumbaya and be one. No, it recognizes and respects the differences that each team brings to the table in terms of charter, scope, and necessary skill sets. It just makes doing their jobs easier and easier to do better. And it delivers benefits that extend across the enterprise. ServiceOps directly addresses many of the high priority IT objectives and challenges. Most especially and repeatedly, it came up in multiple questions, multiple ways. Reduction in outage frequency and duration, IT employee productivity, user experience, improved service, and it cuts costs. So my summation statement is ServiceOps is on the rise because it directly addresses top IT priorities, using mainstream technologies to deliver high benefits while cutting costs, and it makes sense to the people who are doing the work. There is no downside. So I am a huge fan of ServiceOps, and it's early on, but it's happening now, and I just couldn't be more excited. And it's a good time to turn it over to Bruce to help you see how ServiceNow can walk with you.
Thanks, Valerie. Every time we walk through this research, one thing, well, actually, there's a few things that stick out to me, but one in particular, there's so much emphasis in the media and everywhere else around, when we talk about digital transformation, the importance of development, right? New innovation. Yet I look at this and I say to myself, without services and operations, you have nothing, right? You really have nothing. You have a whole bunch of innovation that can't be used, that can't run, that's not supported, right? Is that, would you agree with that based on what you've seen?
I would. In one publication or another, I say that service and operations are inextricable, because without good operations, there is no service. And without the two of them, really innovation would just be the sound of one hand clapping.
Hey, I like that. One hand clapping.
Did you see me do it?
It doesn't work. Yeah,
it
didn't work. Yeah, I even tried to do it with you and it didn't work.
Yeah,
well, and we appreciate, again, you all being here. I saw lots of people saying hello from different places while Valerie was talking. I'm from Utah, by the way. I saw at least.
You mean they weren't listening to me? They were talking.
No, they were
to
listening.
You?
They were listening for sure. But they were, wanted to make sure that they were announcing themselves to the audience, and I very much appreciated that. I'm also from Utah, as I stated, so there's at least one Utah person out there, and I think from almost every state, including yours, Valerie. So go find that person and take them out for a drink. So I know, not going to happen. You did mention, and I think it's important, you didn't cover all of the research that is here. And for those attending today who are really interested in figuring out how you can build a service operations practice internally, or maybe getting the funding that you need to start to work on it, you can download the entire research that you provided, and it's within the handouts tab here. So link on the handouts, you'll find that the research is there. And again, to those of you that are here looking to establish a service ops practice, or maybe continue to move it forward in your own organization, the research is there with that Valerie's just talked to help with the business case and other things. I'm actually going to focus on the ServiceNow piece now and really talk about how we have the things that we have done to try and invest in it and make it real for our customers. And if I look back a couple of years, we were not talking about service operations or service ops, right? Whatever you want to call it, technology service operations. But what we found is our customers were, and they were not necessarily using the words either, but they were putting our products together in a way that does exactly what Valerie described, right? To help reduce the amount of rework, to increase the collaboration, in some cases, maybe even to make those teams under the same organizational model. So we had thousands of customers doing this, and we realized, well, wait a minute, there is something about having these, our market-leading IT service management and IT operations management, or AIOps products together, that these customers are realizing and benefiting from. And so we are now going to market. When you hear us say technology service operations or service ops, that's what we're talking about. If you own ITSM from us, you own ITOM products from us, you're actually already on this ServiceOps journey with
And
your
Bruce,
product.
I don't plan to interrupt you very often, but this goes to what you're saying goes exactly to the point that I made about in most organizations, ServiceOps begins at a grassroots level. And then all of the benefits that accrue to the company or to the organization, they only get maximized once the efforts get recognized, legitimized, formalized, and funded and supported from an organizational standpoint. So go ahead. I can't
No,
wait to hear.
that's you can interrupt me whenever. I appreciate that. So, if I look back to those customers and why they did what they did, and some of this was shown in Valerie's research that she was talking about just barely, but as the pandemic in particular really accelerated the drive towards digital operations or digital, delivering business in a digital way, it accelerated that in so many ways. And we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, companies who were struggling because they hadn't done enough digitally. And those that had, I look at ourselves included, where, ServiceNow shut down in certain pieces of the world, in the India region, for example, from one day to the next, 1,000 employees or so suddenly worked from home and we didn't miss a beat, right? And a lot of that was because of the digital model that we had set up. And, so as you're looking to build not only a more of a digital transformation within IT, but also throughout your entire business, this is what we heard from customers, that the technical debt, the siloed tool sets that they had were holding them back because they don't, and again, we saw this in the research that Valerie just showed, because they don't communicate well together, which means you have to jump on conference calls, you have to do all these other things to be able to make collaboration easy and simple. So that platform is really, that has a single data model and so forth. That's why it shows up in Valerie's research as being so important. Again, another reason we saw ServiceOps was coming forward with our customers was just that rate of change. The more change, that innovation, right? In fact, digital transformation in and of itself is a significant rate of change improvement or increase from where you might have been before for most organizations. Then we also have distributed teams, right? No longer are we sitting together most of the time, right? There are very few organizations out there where everyone sits in the same place at the same time, working on the same thing. Instead, you have distributed teams, which makes collaboration all the more difficult. And then, again, the research showed that incidents and major outages are not decreasing at all. Go figure. After so many years, they're increasing in many cases, and definitely not decreasing at all. So, what did we decide to do about that? We wanted to talk to our customers who are in the services and the operations realm, much like Valerie was talking to in her research, and try and figure out what the problems were that they were trying to solve, the major issues. And what I found interesting is sometimes we'd ask operations folks a question about what their major issues were, and they would answer, if you're looking at the slide right now, they would answer some of the things that are on the left side. And the services people would actually answer some of the things that are on the right side, which it's like, wow, what that's telling me is, yes, exactly. They're either pointing at each other or they need each other to be successful. And, with the pandemic, not just the pandemic, but other reasons, all organizations are shifting more to a digital model. Both teams have to solve many of the same issues at the end of the day, right? You have to solve for employees that are frustrated because they don't like how the technology is being delivered to them or how they're interacting with it today. And they'd like that to be a better experience. On the flip side, even our own IT staffs many times were frustrated how long it took to resolve a problem, right? It shouldn't take multiple interactions and days and several phone calls for what may actually be a pretty simple resolution at the end of the day. But just trying to isolate what that was, perform the root cause, if I'm using the correct terminology, takes so long. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to go there? So again, that's what our customers were looking at when they said, hey, look, your ITSM and your ITOM products together can actually help me resolve those problems. And again, supported by Valerie's research, and I'm really just repeating what she said. One of the slides I loved was, you looked at the point about how service operations has impacted organizations, right? 96% of the respondents, Valerie, I added them together manually myself. Yeah?
Because I was too lazy to do it for you.
I just took your top categories, right? 96% said it had a transformative effect, right, on their businesses overall. And why is that? Because they can do more with less. If you look at that first reason up there, you're expanding more, you're doing more technology, it actually costs you less to do it. That comes back to a lot of points around productivity, efficiency that were brought up in the research. Secondly, which is becoming more important for almost every customer we talk to, which is about that digital employee experience. I hear that in every conversation I have. It's funny, I've been in this business for 25 plus years. I have never heard, consistently employee experience being as high in the priority list as I do now. They want to make sure that employees and customers are happy with the digital experience that they have every day. And then once you've really gotten to a point where you're delivering great experiences, you're able to do more with less, you're more productive, more efficient, and so forth. Heck, now there's an opportunity for IT to really be a strategic leader for the entire organization. I look back just a few years where most organizations, and there are exceptions, high tech is maybe one of them, but if you look at most industries, IT was historically the one who knew the most about technology, how to use it, how to manipulate it, how to make it better, how to improve on it. And so the knowledge that the IT organization had can be used to help drive innovation throughout the rest of the business. Could you be customer-facing organization, built in or customer-facing technology, stuff that you're building into products and so forth. But the best practices that are learned from service and operations teams are really well suited for those types of things as well. So again, these are the types of things that we saw and heard from our customers. And just kind of drilling in, this is my shameless marketing slide, at least one of them, but I am a marketer, so please forgive me for that. But it's important.
Yeah, but it's also true. Period. So go ahead.
Thanks, Valerie. There are a lot of benefits that can be gained. So coming back to the points I just made earlier about the main reasons why our customers were investing, here's some examples, right? Better ROI, workflow efficiencies, the decrease in high priority incidents, right, are all real tangible benefits of investing in a service operations capability, both from a from personnel perspective as well as a tool perspective. So let me give you a couple of examples of how ServiceNow does this, and I'll come back to this at the end. But again, anybody that already owns our ITSM or ITOM products out there, you're already on the ServiceOps journey. And I want to make that very clear because you have tried to implement and standardize idle or maybe service management processes, instant problem change, self-service. Those things have really gotten you on that journey. If you've tried to put in things like discovery technology, service mapping, event management, event monitoring, all of these things are part of that ServiceOps capability. I'm going to give you another example here because I think it's an important one. And this is part of our solution. I think, besides being on a single platform, which is an important aspect of what ServiceNow delivers, really a differentiator for us, you have one platform that you have to administer across services and ops. And that's a really big benefit. So not only do you see the same information if you're an operations agent, or an operator, or if you're a service agent, you can see the same information and have access to it to make decisions simpler. But the example I wanted to call out was, again, something that Valerie was bringing up, the power of AI to help with service operations. We'll call this one AI-powered service operations. Well, really simplistic yet hopefully descriptive name. So think about things on the left side. If you're in the services world, what you're trying to do is automate delivery of service and even response to issues and questions or requests that your customers have. So, things like self-service password resets, et cetera, are all things that are coming in and you want to be able to do. And you can automate those largely through virtual agents, for example. You can automate even routing of tickets through using predictive analytics, or predictive intelligence, excuse me, is the term that we call, but AI. You can help to route tickets to the person that's most available and ready at that moment. So that's on one hand. You have the services team who, I'll use an example. Let's say, you have a virtual agent that an employee of yours, reaches through because they have an issue with their laptop and they don't quite know why. It's not one that you necessarily see all the time, so your virtual agent cannot resolve it on its own. Instead, it gets escalated to a person who has to look at it, looks at the information, and they say, maybe the first line person says, I don't really know the answer to this either. I need to move it forward in the chain. Now, maybe that person in the chain that's next actually belongs in the operations team because they have to reset. Let's just say they had to reset something in the network. They had to reset the VPN. And, that is, you can do all this automatically if you have the workflow and automation using AI together. On the flip side, taking that VPN example again, let's say that you're actually using AI ops and it tells you when those VPN servers are going to go down before they actually do. You can predict and prevent that incident from ever happening. And hopefully that means that you never even get a request. But these are the ways that AI-powered service operations can work together. On one hand, you can work to reduce by predicting and preventing system issues. And you can also automate response to customer requests, which, by the way, they sometimes can never, they may not have anything to do with an issue. They may be a request about, I need a new mouse, or, I need to get access to this particular Tableau report that I didn't have before. Right? These things are not necessarily broken things, yet you can use the AI technology to be able to make it happen. So what I wanted to do is highlight a couple of these through one drill down into those capabilities again that are in the ITSM, the ServiceNow ServiceOps solution, which includes ITSM and ITOM together. So one of them being this AI-powered virtual agent. Virtual agents are one of the greatest things ever, in my opinion. The more I talk to our customers, the more benefit I see out of these. I know a customer of ours, and I'll try and protect the innocent here by not using any names, but they're a hospital chain. They own multiple hospitals and clinics, and they actually have to use Citrix to access their health records, that are centralized. And so what happened within these, I think it was about 70-ish or so hospitals and clinics that they had out there in the field. Each and every day, they had roughly 150 times where doctors and nurses within those clinics would call in because they could not access the central records. 9 times out of 10, it was a simple VPN reset or a Citrix reset they needed to do, right? So this was happening every day. Took on average 15 minutes to resolve it from beginning to end. So if you're a patient, you're sitting there with a doctor or a nurse, and they can't access your patient records. They can't update anything. They can't check on your prescriptions, things that you're allergic to, anything like that. You're sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for something to get done. That's a bad experience for you. They put a virtual agent in place so it would actually be able to reset Citrix and or the VPN, depending on some of the criteria that they had. And within seconds, the doctor or nurse could actually get up and running again. Right? So that's real world benefit of something like the virtual agents, which we provide out of box. We actually help our customers even determine what their best opportunities for automation are. And you probably missed it, but I did run a quick little video there for you. And what that's showing is from Teams, how you can access a virtual agent. So, the ideal world, you don't actually have to have your employees go somewhere to find the virtual agent. It's actually just embedded into places they work every day, like Teams, like Outlook, like other places, maybe Zoom, right? And it can be accessed there. So that's an important aspect of what we consider AI-powered service operations or service operations. Another area, and this one comes up all the time because change is so important in this digital world where we're becoming more and more digital. And that is, how do you make it faster and how do you increase change? And one of the things that we've done is, well, actually, I'm going to mention two things. One of the things we've done around change management is really to decrease the number of times you have to convene a change board, right? On one hand, we have an integration directly to DevOps tools, so developers are making changes to the code or to the configurations that automatically sends into the ServiceNow change management capability, which is part of ITSM, and just flags and says, look, we made this change. And using AI, we're actually helping to identify whether that change or how risky that change is going to be at the end of the day. And if it's going to be risky, then yeah, it can follow a more robust process of approvals. If it's not, it's kind of a standard change, then hey, it just flows through. It happens automatically. And by the way, we capture everything that happened, the config changes, the code changes, so you can go back and reverse those if you need to at some point. So that's important from change management perspective. So jumping over to the operations side, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, a couple of capabilities there. First is, I mentioned this specifically, the ability to predict and prevent service disruptions. On one hand, that's all about event management, which you're probably very familiar with, right? You take all the events that are occurring, really try and assess if that's impactful to you and even put a priority on them or not. We even have a capability that uses log analytics. We call it health log analytics. Uses log analytics to be able to look at the logs and assess what is going on. So you're not just monitoring events in the traditional way, but we're also looking at logs to assess if there are issues that are going to occur and then flagging them. And most importantly, we actually take all of these events, all of these issues that may be occurring, try and prioritize them, and we map them back to the service. So it's not just that your server 123 is going to go down or it's having a memory issue. It's that server actually will impact your email service. It'll impact your billing service. It'll tell you exactly what it's impacting. So that's a really important aspect of how we do this at the end of the day. And then one more capability there is, and this is a really important one when you look at having IT services and operations teams together, is something we call the Service Operations Workspace. This is something that we provide if you're an ITSM customer or an ITOM customer, you have access to it, but it's that one place where both IT agents, service agents, and operators work together. Again, I showed you a little quick video vignette, but may have been too small for you to really see. The idea is if you're working on an incident together, you actually have one pane of glass where you're looking at the same information. So a service agent will automatically know, because they're looking in the same place, they'll know if something's down. So if they get a request that comes in saying, hey, my email is broken, they will know that their email servers are down. And vice versa, the operators will have the information they need to do better root cause and also more quickly remediate issues that are coming to them. So that's another pretty significant capability that's part of the solution that we offer around service operations. I'm going to, just in the essence of time, I'm actually going to jump forward one slide to this one here, because it's really a question of what happens next. Like how does this happen at the end of the day? What are kind of the steps? I'm going to outline the whole thing rather than just use the animation. I'm going to bring it all together for you. Right, so we send most of our customers, they start with service management. And they start with kind of automating of those service management processes in the cloud on a single platform, right? Many times our customers have multiple service management tools in place. That in and of itself is a big issue and an additional expense they don't need to have. So putting them in one place, one platform, similar processes, and automating those is important. Giving that asset and app visibility is the baseline. If you don't know what you have, you don't know how it relates back to your services, it's pretty hard to do what comes next, right? To do the predicting and preventing, even though you can predict that a server is going to come down, you don't know what that server really impacts, right, at the end of the day. So that service mapping, knowing what you have out there is important. I mentioned that AI-powered experiences kind of comes next for most of our employees, or our customers, sorry. You have to automate processes and figure out what you're going to do around incident problem change before it really makes sense to put AI in place, which is using your data to try and enhance what happens every day. AI ops is similar in that vein. You can put AI ops in place, which is all about monitoring of the infrastructure, trying to predict and prevent when something's going to happen. And then next, and I talked to this earlier, it's all about optimizing things. Once you have automation in place, AI in place, then being able to optimize your workforce, your processes, and create best practices for the rest of the organization is important. This is the journey that we see a lot of our customers follow in implementing and bringing service operations into their own organizations, whether they report through a separate teams or the same organization, doesn't really matter. Again, just an example, this one from Europe. I really like this example because it does show some of the benefits that they get out of investing in service operations. Reduction in high priority incidents, which is a huge value proposition for them, as well as a time to restore services when things do break, right? Which hopefully doesn't happen that often. And that single platform story that Valerie talked about, that is what ServiceNow is delivering to you through our service operations solution. So last slide for me, and then we'll jump into a couple of questions and answers. But think about a couple of these things as you go forward from here. When you're considering service operations and maybe an investment in service operations, could you really do some of the things you'd like to do as a business? And unfortunately, we don't have time to talk to each of you. It'd be wonderful if we could. But could you achieve what you need to do if your service and operations teams are separate today? Or stated differently, if they were together and could troubleshoot things faster, more easily, what sort of benefits would that bring? Ask yourself that. And I think the research that Valerie provided should help to give you some real numbers and examples that customers are telling about the benefits they're getting. Next would be, how would AI improve service delivery or operations performance? And I mentioned some of the examples there with the example of the virtual agent. I didn't necessarily talk that deeply about AI ops capabilities. We have a customer that had, they're a telecom customer, so they had 250,000 events that were happening every month, which once they sorted through them, that ended up with 90,000 incidents that were in their system. Turns out once they used AI ops to actually filter through all of those incidents, right? They found is they only had just 100 or so real incidents that needed any investigation. Instead, they spent a lot of time sending teams after these thousands of incidents that were out there and trying to assess what really was a problem and what wasn't. So, how would AI improve your lives? It's pretty significant. 50% productivity gains from, we're seeing all the time from our customer. Imagine what you as an IT organization could do if your agents had 50% more time back. Right? What could you do with that? What sort of innovation could you derive for your own organization and for the business that you support? And then, think about where the siloed nature of services and operations may be hurting you today. And that answer may be why you're here, right, to talk about that. I would definitely document those as you try and build a business case for service operations, because that is important to think about. The service operations will, as again, based on the research that we've seen with our own customers and what Valerie presented today, it will help to reduce or improve the collaboration, reduce the siloed approach that you have. So thank you again. I'm going to turn the time over to Jess for some question and answers.
Well, hey, Bruce, Valerie, that was such an incredible conversation. That was so exciting. I can always tell when it's a great talk because I'm furiously taking notes along with you. Valerie, you gave me a couple of really good thinkers. I think your point about operations as the foundation for innovation is one that I'm going to be thinking about for quite a while. A really wonderful takeaway. I wish we had a little bit more time to dig into question. We are coming up right on to the hour here. So I think we're going to have to leave it pretty quickly here. But before you go, Bruce, I'm going to sneak in one question. And I know, Valerie, we were just talking about the importance of timeliness, and now I'm going to bend that rule instantly. But Bruce, we had a question right at the end here from Brandon, wondering about how somebody actually gets started with ServiceOps. And I'm wondering if what you can do is sort of take two questions for me here and combine combine them into one. If you can give us a first step for getting started with ServiceOps, what everyone out there should be thinking about or taking away, or maybe taking that first step there. But then also give us a first step for getting started with ServiceNow.
Wow, combining those two together, that's it's thankfully you did that, because I would answer it the same way, right? And the first step is, you really need to look at your IT service management processes at the end of the day. If you have multiple tools in place, and I say look at them, and when I say look at them, I'm talking about document some of the issues that you have through potentially multiple tools, interactions between, and even if you have a single, what are the interactions that are taking way too long? How much time is being spent on resolving incidents today because you're looking at maybe different data between the operations and services teams? So part of it is, I'd say, documenting as an individual contributor, document where it is where you're seeing significant inefficiencies, and it's often going to be in the multiple tools. The interactions that the teams are having where they're looking at different pieces of data, maybe even disagreeing what the answer will be and how they resolve issues. And how you get started with ServiceNow is exactly the same thing, right? We think that the right place to start is to look at one platform for service management across the organization, right? And really that service management platform will have to extend into things that the operations teams needs, get them using it for their at least root cause analysis initially, right? And then we'll grow from there into the the asset visibility, the service mapping, those sorts of things that you need.
And just one last thought here. If you are already a ServiceNow customer, in addition to looking at the glass half empty, what are the problems and inefficiencies you're seeing? What are the capabilities that you already have in place that you could use more effectively or more far-reaching way? Because a lot of times, as I said, with ServiceOps, the tracks are already in place. They're already laid down. We're not talking about really arcane technologies. So ServiceOps and ServiceNow really do go hand in hand. Okay, I'm done.
No, that's a great point. Don't worry about breaking new trail if the trail is already there. I can see, Bruce, you've got a quick wrap-up thought for us here on the screen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this is just one of many webinars that we have. So please look for our on-demand webinars on our website. You see the address there. And secondly, for anybody, whether you're a customer or otherwise, we have a great get-together in May. It's a lot of fun, right? I've never in my life heard more customers actually giving their stories, which will help other customers and or prospects learn how they can do things like ServiceOps that we talked about today, and how you got started, what your first steps were as an individual contributor or team, right? So a knowledge event is very, very important. That comes up in pretty soon in May.
That's really exciting. I love that. I do want to let you both know that we've gotten a couple of high fives and thank yous from the audience. I think really struck a lot of chords with the folks out there today and taught us lots. So we appreciate your time, Bruce, Valerie. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Well, and a big thank you to all of you for joining us today, for asking some great questions and really bringing up the entire energy of the discussion that we get to have here today. That really is one of the best parts of joining in these conversations with these incredible experts. Now, I know that there's a few of you out there saying, Jess, you promised a prize, and I did, and I will. Before I get to that, I'm going to remind you one more time to head on over to that handouts tab, because there's some incredible resources that you absolutely must take home with you today and really kind of dig into a little bit more, because we covered a lot very quickly and only so much of it is going to stay when you try to recall it later. So these resources are going to help you come back to these really important points that we just heard from Valerie and from Bruce. So make sure you've got the EMA March 2023 report, Automation, AI, and the Rise of ServiceOps. I love that. It sounds like a cool Marvel movie. And then also make sure you get the ServiceNow ebook, Reimagining IT Service Delivery and Operations, no matter what comes your way. And there you go. That's the sequel to the Marvel movie. Whatever comes your way, you want to make sure you're prepared. Again, some really powerful ways that a combined management approach is going to drive that. Again, we're talking about resiliency and proactivity. Love those concepts. So make make sure you've got those handouts. All right, well, not just those we're giving away. We are going to get to our prize. We have a $250 Amazon gift card, and the winner of that is Victor Lang of Texas. Victor Lang of Texas, if you are here present and live with us at the webinar, you have won a $250 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to you. But aren't we all winners here today? What a great conversation we got to be a part of. And on that note, I want to thank once again, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, ServiceNow, for making this webinar possible. And a giant thank you to both Bruce and to Valerie for leading us through that really engaging and interesting conversation. I think Valerie in particular said, not getting hung up on titles, but really focusing on the ideas, and some really incredible ideas here. So whatever you want to call it moving forward, I hope you've all learned something interesting that you can take back to your team and start that conversation with. And so on that note, also a big thank you to all of you out there for joining in, for making time in your day, making this event possible, and really being an interactive part of this webinar. This is a great example of the in-depth learning and conversation that can happen when we all pool our information and engage in these conversations together. So thank you very much for being a part of that. I know I've learned a ton. As I said, I was furiously taking notes, so I'm going to go spend some time reviewing those. And I hope that you're all taking away some interesting and fun facts, little brain tickly moments today. I can't wait to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, I hope you all have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.